High schools are supposed to feel safe. Bright hallways, teenagers laughing, teachers collecting homework, parents believing their children are protected the moment they walk through those doors. But at Harper Ridge High, that safety was only an illusion, a perfect little bubble created to hide everything that was quietly rotting underneath. You would walk into the building and see nothing but normal life. Morning announcements echoing from the speakers, sports trophies shining behind glass cases, students rushing to class with textbooks in their arms, talking about weekend plans and upcoming exams. On the surface, this school looked like every parent's dream. But behind the closed office doors, behind the locked storage rooms, behind the smiles of certain adults who were supposed to protect those kids, something else was happening. Something dangerous. Something no one wanted to talk about. The person who finally saw through the lies wasn't a detective, not a police officer, not an investigator. It was a 34-year-old English teacher. Quiet, soft-spoken, a woman who believed in literature, healing, and hope. A woman who thought her job was simply to teach teenagers how to write better essays, not to uncover a secret that would make her a target. The moment she discovered what was happening in that school, someone decided she knew too much. They didn't want her asking questions. They didn't want her talking. They didn't want her digging any deeper. Because the truth she stumbled on was powerful enough to ruin reputations, destroy families, end careers, and expose a pattern of abuse that had been buried for years. She didn't know it yet. But the day she tried to save a student's life was the day she unknowingly stepped into a war she never asked for. A war in which the people she trusted were suddenly the ones watching her every move. This is the story of the teacher who knew too much. Her name was never known outside the walls of Harper Ridge High. To most people, she was just another teacher. Someone who blended into the background with soft cardigans, neatly tied hair, and a smile that made even the quietest students feel seen. She wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't demand attention. She simply loved teaching. That was all she ever wanted. For 12 years, she poured her heart into her classroom. She stayed after school helping struggling students. She bought notebooks and supplies with her own money when families couldn't afford them. She listened when her students talked, even when their voices were barely above a whisper. She believed every child had a story, and every story mattered. She never imagined her own story would become the most dangerous one of all. She wasn't searching for secrets. She wasn't looking for corruption. She wasn't trying to expose anyone. She just cared too much. And sometimes, caring is what puts you in the crosshairs. The first red flag appeared quietly, the way danger always does. A student walked into her classroom one morning with a sweatshirt pulled tight around her wrists. The girl usually bubbled with jokes, but that day she avoided eye contact and winced when she sat down. When the teacher gently asked if she was okay, the girl forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It was the kind of smile that begged not to be questioned, a smile that hid more than it revealed. Then came the grade inconsistencies. Students who never turned in assignments suddenly receiving perfect scores. Others who worked hard and earned A's mysteriously dropping to C's with no explanation. When she brought it up to administration, she was told the system was updating. She was told not to worry. She was told to focus on her own classroom. But she couldn't. Because once you notice the cracks, you start seeing them everywhere. She noticed the locked offices late at night when she stayed grading essays. Rooms that were never locked before suddenly had new security codes. She heard whispered conversations in staff lounges fall silent the moment she walked in. Papers disappeared from her desk. The principal, who once greeted her warmly every morning, now avoided her eyes and dismissed her questions with quick nods and fake smiles. At first, she tried to convince herself it was nothing. High schools are chaotic. Kids have problems. Administrators are busy. Stress makes people imagine things. That's what she told herself. But deep down, she knew something was wrong. Very wrong. She wasn't looking for trouble. She didn't want conflict. She didn't want enemies. She just wanted to help her students. But trouble has a way of finding the people who try to do what's right. And soon, she would discover that the moment she started asking questions, someone began watching her. Someone who wanted the secrets of Harper Ridge High to stay buried forever. She didn't choose this fight. It chose her. Everything changed the day she walked into her classroom and found one of her quietest students sitting alone, trembling. His sleeves were pulled over his hands, and he flinched when she gently placed a graded paper on his desk. He whispered that he was fine, but his voice cracked in a way that made her heart twist. She had seen fear before, but this was something deeper, something learned. Later that week, another student turned in an assignment with shaky handwriting, as if her fingers had trouble holding a pen. When the teacher asked if she was okay, the girl burst into tears, then immediately apologized, terrified she'd get in trouble for crying. These were not ordinary teenage struggles. These were signs of something darker, something systemic. That was when she decided to start paying closer attention. What she found made her stomach drop. Late one evening, as she entered grades into the school system, she noticed something strange. The numbers on her screen shifted right before her eyes. A failing grade changed to a B-. An incomplete assignment suddenly became full credit with a timestamp from a week earlier. She knew she didn't enter those numbers. Someone was altering student records, silently, remotely. With admin-level access she didn't recognize. When she tried to bring it up, she was told she probably clicked the wrong button. But she wasn't wrong, and she wasn't imagining things. Her curiosity grew into concern, and concern grew into fear. Another night, while preparing lesson plans in the teacher's lounge, she accidentally knocked over a folder left on the table. Papers scattered across the floor, financial reports, receipts, invoices, and something didn't make sense. Tens of thousands of dollars listed as allocation for enrichment programs, funds that were supposedly used for tutoring, textbooks, after-school clubs, but she'd never seen any such clubs. No new books, no equipment, nothing that matched the numbers on those papers. Money was disappearing, quietly, consistently, and nobody was talking about it. But the real chill came from the whispers she heard in the hallway near the maintenance wing. Students talking about a private after-hours program that only certain kids attended. A program run by staff members who insisted it was for mentoring and performance improvement, even though no one could explain what actually happened there. No one would talk about it openly, only in whispers, only with fear. She felt her pulse pounding as the pieces slowly snapped together. The bruises, the altered grades, the missing funds, the locked rooms, the strange rumors. None of it was random. None of it was innocent. Something was happening at Harper Ridge High, something hidden, something dangerous. So she did the only thing she could think of. She began documenting everything, every bruise, every suspicious entry in the gradebook, every financial discrepancy, every rumor that floated through the halls. She stored copies in a hidden folder, locked behind passwords, a folder only she could access. She thought she was protecting her students. She thought she was doing the right thing. But she didn't know one thing. Someone was already watching her every move. And the day she saved all the evidence onto her private drive was the day her nightmare began. The first sign came on a rainy Tuesday morning. She walked out to the parking lot, ready to head home after grading papers late into the evening, and saw her front tires slashed clean open. Not torn, not punctured, slashed. A warning made with precision. She tried to convince herself it was just vandalism. Teenagers acting out. A random incident. But the moment she walked into her classroom the next day, that illusion shattered. Her computer was already on. Her screen was already unlocked. And sitting right in the middle of her inbox was an email. No sender, no subject. Just one word, written in bold capital letters. Stop. No explanation. No context. Just that one, heavy command, as if someone was watching her, as if someone knew exactly what she had been digging into. She reported it to the administration. They smiled politely, promised to look into it, and sent her back to class. But their eyes told her the real answer. You're on your own. That afternoon, she reached into her desk drawer to take out a marker, and froze. Lying on top of her lesson plans was a small, lifeless bird, neck broken, wings spread, placed there carefully, intentionally, like a message only she was meant to understand. That was the moment her hands began to shake, because this wasn't childish mischief, this wasn't coincidence, this was personal. Still, she tried to keep her routine, tried to keep teaching, tried to pretend she wasn't terrified. But fear has a way of revealing itself, even to people who aren't supposed to notice. One of her quietest students approached her after class, a shy girl who rarely spoke above a whisper. She tugged at the teacher's sleeve, her voice trembling as her eyes scanned the doorway to be sure no one else was listening. "Miss, it's not safe for you anymore." That was all she said. Just 7 words, 7 words that felt like the ground opening beneath her feet. Someone wanted her silent, someone wanted her gone, and whoever they weren't finished yet. She started to realize something unsettling. The more she looked over her shoulder, the more she watched people carefully, the clearer it became. Someone in that school wanted her gone, someone close, someone she saw every single day. And suddenly, everyone became a suspect. First, there was the star student. Straight A's, perfect attendance, always polite, always quiet. Too quiet. He was the kind of kid teachers praised without thinking twice. But she noticed the way he flinched when certain staff members walked by, the way he avoided eye contact in the hallways, the way he lingered after class as if wanting to speak, but terrified of being overheard. One afternoon, he finally came to her desk, hands trembling, voice barely a whisper. "They'll ruin my life if I talk." Then he walked away. Who was they? And why was a teenager speaking like someone already living in fear? Next was the football coach, Harper Ridge's golden man, charismatic, charming, loved by students, adored by parents, protected by the administration. But she noticed things others ignored, the private meetings behind closed gym doors. The way he appeared in rooms she thought she'd locked, the way he stepped far too close when he warned her, "You're digging in places that will destroy this school." His tone was controlled, but his eyes were enraged. Was he protecting the school or protecting himself? Then there was the PTA mother, wealthy, influential, untouchable, the kind of woman who could make one phone call and change a teacher's entire career. She carried herself like the school belonged to her family, and maybe, in some ways, it did. The teacher overheard her one evening after a meeting, voice sharp and furious. "Handle her! She's going to ruin everything!" Ruin what? A reputation? A secret? A long-buried truth? The PTA mother had the power, the money, and the connections to silence anyone who became inconvenient. Was she using them? And then, the principal. Too calm, too rehearsed. Whenever the teacher brought up evidence or concerns, he offered the same robotic response. "Be careful with accusations. We must protect the school's image. Not the students, not the truth, the image." He blocked her investigations, lost her paperwork, ignored her emails. Why? What was he afraid would come out if she kept digging? And finally, there was the janitor. Always there, always watching. He moved through the hallways like a ghost, silent, invisible, but seeing everything. He knew every unlocked door, every blind corner, every security flaw. One night as she packed her bag, he appeared in her doorway without warning. His voice was low, urgent, almost frightened. "Don't stay late, not tonight." Then he turned and disappeared. Was he trying to protect her? Or was he warning her for a different reason? Every hallway held a secret. Every face held a possibility. Every person, student, staff, parent, felt like they could be the one hiding the truth. And the terrifying part was, any of them, absolutely any one of them, could be the person who wanted her silent. She thought documenting the truth would protect her, that gathering evidence would give her leverage, that once she had everything organized and stored, she would finally feel safe. But the opposite happened. The more she uncovered, the more the walls around her began to close in. The first sign was subtle, almost easy to overlook. One evening, she opened her laptop, ready to continue organizing the files she'd collected, screenshots, photos, logs of suspicious behavior. But the folder she created wasn't there, not moved, not renamed, gone, completely erased. She searched every drive, every backup, every hidden folder. Nothing. Hours of documentation vanished without a trace. She told herself she must have misplaced it, maybe saved it under a different name. But deep down, she knew the truth. Someone had accessed her computer. Someone had gone through her private files. Someone knew exactly what she was doing. 2 days later, a student slipped a flash drive into her hand with shaking fingers. "They told me not to say anything," he whispered. "But you need to see this." When she got home, she opened the drive expecting answers, expecting something that would finally connect the dots. Instead, the screen went black. Lines of corrupted code flickered across her monitor. The files were scrambled, unreadable, destroyed. And sitting in the very center of the screen, typed in bright red letters, was a single word: stop. No explanation, no sender, just a command, a demand, a threat. Her heartbeat never slowed after that. Within days, she began to notice the headlights behind her car at night. A vehicle that stayed just close enough to be noticed, but far enough that she could never see the driver. No matter how many turns she made, how many detours she tried, the car followed until she reached her neighborhood, then disappeared the moment she pulled into her driveway. She told herself it was a coincidence, a trick of the mind, but fear has a way of telling the truth long before the facts do. One night, she returned home to find her front door slightly cracked open. Her heart dropped. She stepped inside slowly, switching on lights room by room. Nothing was missing. Nothing was out of place. Her laptop still sat on her desk. Her wallet was still on the kitchen table. Every item was exactly where she left it. But that was the part that terrified her the most. Someone had been inside, not to steal, not to take anything, but to look, to search, to leave a message without writing a word. By then, sleep became impossible. Every sound in the house felt like footsteps. Every shadow felt like someone standing just beyond her view. She started checking her locks twice, then 3 times, sometimes forgetting she had already checked them at all. Her nerves were stretched thin, her instincts screaming that something was terribly wrong. And then she found it. A small, black recording device taped beneath her desk at school. Carefully placed, perfectly hidden, close enough to capture every conversation she had. Her hands trembled as she peeled it away. Someone was listening to her. Someone wanted to know everything she said. Someone was watching her unravel in real time. She wasn't imagining things. She wasn't overreacting. She wasn't paranoid. Someone really wanted her to disappear. For days, every detail pointed toward one person. Every uneasy glance, every whispered rumor, every uncomfortable truth seemed to trace back to the same name: the football coach, Harper Ridge High's golden man, the one everyone trusted, the one who always had too much access, too much influence, and too many secrets tucked behind that charming smile. It started with the meetings, those private, closed-door sessions with certain students. Sessions no one questioned because he was adored by the community. Then came the unexplained schedule changes, the sudden disappearances of students during practice hours, the whispers among the seniors that he could make problems go away if you were loyal enough to him. The teacher had noticed all of it. She had kept her distance until the threats began. And suddenly, the coach's behavior changed. He confronted her in the hallway one afternoon, blocking her path as if trying to trap her in place. His voice was low, tense, but trembling with anger. "You're destroying my career," he said. "You have no idea what you're doing." It wasn't a warning. It was a threat. That moment made everything click, or at least it felt that way. The picture seemed complete. He had access. He had motive. He had a history of disciplining students behind closed doors. He had the strength and the temper to carry out the threats she'd faced. And when he was suddenly suspended pending an internal investigation, the school's silence felt like confirmation. Parents whispered. Staff exchanged loaded glances. Something about him wasn't right. Everyone felt it. Then the arguments began. One afternoon, students saw him corner a frightened senior behind the gym. His voice raised, his expression twisted with panic. The kid wouldn't talk afterward. He just shook his head and said, "I didn't say anything, I promise, I didn't say anything." The teacher watched this unfold from a distance, her heart pounding. Every instinct told her the same thing. He was the one. He had to be the one. Who else had such control? Who else had so much to lose? But the truth is never that simple. Because the night she almost died, the narrative shattered. It was late. The halls were empty. She gathered her things and walked toward the stairwell, exhausted but relieved to be heading home. She didn't hear footsteps behind her. She didn't hear anyone approach. All she felt was the sudden force, hands on her back, shoving her forward, sending her tumbling toward the edge of the stairs. She caught the rail by instinct, her breath ripped from her chest as she held on for her life. She looked back, but the hallway was empty. Someone had tried to kill her. And in that same hour, almost to the minute, the football coach was being rushed into the emergency room across town, his face bruised, ribs broken, barely conscious after a violent attack outside his home. He couldn't have been in two places at once. He couldn't have pushed her. He couldn't have orchestrated both attacks in the same moment. The man who seemed like the perfect villain, the man the entire story pointed toward, the man everyone believed was guilty, was lying in a hospital bed fighting for his life. Everything we believed was wrong, and now the real threat was still out there. After the attack on the football coach and the attempt to push her down the stairs, she realized something chilling. The danger wasn't random. It was coordinated, calculated. Someone inside Harper Ridge High had woven a web so intricate that every path she followed led her deeper into places she was never supposed to see. So she did what no one expected. She kept digging. Late at night, long after the building emptied, she unlocked her classroom and began to go through every document she had managed to salvage. If someone was erasing her evidence, she had to work faster. She searched through archived emails, attendance logs, budget breakdowns, anything with a timestamp or a signature. And slowly, piece by piece, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. Financial reports with impossible numbers. Funds routed into accounts that didn't exist a year ago. Payments recorded for programs that had never been announced, never advertised, never approved. Money moved in circles so confusing that it took hours for her to understand what she was looking at. But when she finally did, the truth hit her like a punch to the chest. The after-hours program she kept hearing about. The one whispered by students, hidden behind locked doors. It wasn't for tutoring. It wasn't for mentoring. It wasn't even for academics. It was a cover. A perfect one. A shield created to hide something far darker behind the facade of school improvement. The students chosen for the program all shared something in common: vulnerable backgrounds, inconsistent grades, complicated home lives. Kids who wouldn't be believed if they spoke up. Kids who depended on the school for safety, and were now being used by the very institution meant to protect them. She found messages buried in the system, small cryptic emails exchanged late at night between staff members and administrators, notes about which students were approved, which ones needed special handling, and which ones should be kept quiet. There were schedules for meetings that didn't show up on the official calendar, rosters for activities that never truly happened. Lists of students moved from place to place under the guise of extra help. The deeper she looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't the work of a rogue staff member. This wasn't one person acting alone. This was organized. Someone with authority had designed it. Someone with power had maintained it. Someone trusted had been manipulating everything from the shadows, the grades, the finances, the staff, the students, even the principal's decisions. Every thread she pulled pointed upward, not sideways, not toward random individuals. Upward, toward the people who controlled Harper Ridge High and the images they fought desperately to protect. She stared at the documents spread across her desk, heart pounding, breathing unsteady. This wasn't a scandal. It was a system. A machine made of secrets, fear, and silence. And now she understood why someone had tried to push her down the stairs, why her files were erased, why she was being followed, why a recording device had been hidden beneath her desk. She wasn't simply uncovering wrongdoing, she was unraveling an entire operation. And the person behind it wasn't finished with her yet. For weeks, she believed the danger came from the adults around her. The coach, the principal, the PTA mother, even the janitor. Every sign pointed upward, toward people with power and influence. But the truth had been sitting quietly in the third row of her classroom the entire time. The star student, the quiet one, the one who never caused trouble, the one who always turned in perfect work and avoided eye contact with certain teachers, the one who whispered, "They'll ruin my life if I talk," the one she tried hardest to protect. He wasn't a victim. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't being controlled. He was the one pulling the strings. It started years before she ever arrived at Harper Ridge. A child genius, socially isolated, overlooked by adults who praised his intelligence but ignored his behavior. He learned early how to manipulate people, how to cry on command, how to act terrified, how to shift blame. By high school, he had perfected it. He had hacked the grading system, altering records to blackmail teachers. He leaked financial documents to create suspicion around the administration. He started the rumors about the after-hours program. He planted the recording device under her desk. He deleted her files. He sent the message, "Stop." He followed her car. He orchestrated the chaos, all from the shadows. Because he wanted control, he wanted power. And most importantly, he wanted to see how far she would go before she broke. When she confronted him, finally piecing together the fragments, he didn't cry. He didn't deny anything. He didn't even look surprised. He simply smiled. A calm, calculated smile that didn't belong on a teenager. "I wanted to see if you were smart enough to figure it out," he said. "I chose you because you were the only one who paid attention." Her blood ran cold as the truth settled in. He had manipulated students, manipulated teachers, manipulated the entire school. And he used her investigation as his personal experiment, a game to test how much destruction one person could cause without ever lifting a finger in public. The after-hours program wasn't real. The abuse wasn't real. The threats were real, but crafted by him. Every suspect she believed in, every clue she followed, every danger she faced, all of it was him. A 15-year-old boy with no empathy, no remorse, and no fear of consequences. The police found the evidence hidden in his bedroom. Files, recordings, forged messages, the hacked grades, the scripts he used to frame others. Not handwritten confessions, not emotional apologies, but meticulously organized folders labeled by date and target. As if he were building a case study, when they arrested him, He didn't fight, didn't cry, didn't ask for a lawyer. He looked at her one last time and said, "Thank you. You are the most interesting one." And that was when she understood. She hadn't been hunting a criminal. She had been playing a game she never agreed to join, and he had been winning from the start. In the end, she wasn't a hero to them. She was the enemy who dared to speak the truth. And at Harper Ridge High, the truth was the most dangerous thing a teacher could ever know. If you want more stories that expose the darkness hidden behind ordinary lives, don't forget to subscribe to Behind the Perfect Crime. Your support helps us shine a light on the secrets most people never see.